Dear sewing friends, it is that time of the year when we're using our sewing skills for a good cause. And of course, I'm talking about Project Dress a Girl. Now, last year it seemed that you did enjoy and love the little pattern for the dress that I made with side panels and those really big fun pockets. So this year I decided to take the same idea and modify it a little bit. This time the dress will have a sleeve. Now, it is also just as easy to sew. In fact, I would say that this version is actually even easier than last year's version, and there is a beautiful little detail on the back. As always, my goal is to make it as easy and as smooth as possible, perhaps to show you a new technique or two, so that way in the process you can learn something and create a beautiful dress for a girl that really needs it. Now, as always, it is a single size pattern, ages 5 to 6, and you can download it for free by clicking the link in the description of this video. So right there underneath, and you can also download all of the other free patterns that I developed with the previous years of participation in Project Dress a Girl. So you can of course use them as well. There is a video for each one of them to help you put it together and make a beautiful dress. Now, if you didn't know, Mari from Mari Sews is the beating heart, the engine behind the Project Dress a Girl. So let's hear from her. She has a lot of important information that we need in order to make the best possible dresses.
I'm Mari from Mari Sews, and I'm the founder of Project Dress a Girl, the month-long event where we all sew dresses for girls living in extreme poverty. All of the dresses that we're making need to be able to slip over a little girl's head without any kind of fasteners, all except fabric ties and elastic. You can use those too. Now, you can sew any size up to a size 12, but please make sure that your fabrics are all natural fabrics. They can be a blend, so if you've got a blend that is mostly natural, that's okay. But do make sure that your fabrics are not sheer. And if you by chance happen to have a sheer fabric, go ahead and line that. And while we're talking about fabrics, let's avoid any of those cartoon character themes like Disney characters and the like. No words on your fabric, because we don't know where these dresses are gonna go and what language they speak. No country specifics like flags or holiday themes. And please, no pillowcases. Don't waste your precious sewing time making a dress out of a pillowcase that won't get donated. No one wants that to happen. Do include at least one pocket on your dress. The more the merrier. They're the perfect place to place your Project Dress a Girl label or your Dress a Girl Around the World label. My favorite place is to put it right on the little shoulder right there. You can get these labels right here, the Project Dress a Girl labels, over on my website. The sales from these labels do help with the event cost. Anything that is left over ends up getting donated to Dress a Girl Around the World. But of course, you can also use this label that you can get from Dress a Girl Around the World. And this year, I'm really hoping that we can hit that 7,000 mark, so that way we can help 7,000 little girls. We keep track of all of the dresses that are getting donated, which means that you, my friend, you need to let me know how many dresses you've made for a donation. And you can do that one of two ways. You can either post your picture on Instagram using the hashtag Project Dress a Girl 2024 and tag me at Mari Sews for Curves. If you're not on Instagram, no worries. Just send me an email to projectdressagirl@gmail.com and my team will be happy to record your final numbers. Now, if you're wondering, well, Mari, how do I actually collect these dresses? I've got you covered. You can either find a local ambassador who has opted in to receiving dresses from this event. And if you don't have a nearby ambassador, feel free to ship me your dress. If you have any questions or want any details, go and check out the kickoff video over at Mari Sews. You can also send an email to me at projectdressagirl@gmail.com. And by the way, in case you haven't done it yet, make sure that you subscribe to this video right down there. Check out those little buttons down there. Subscribe, hit that bell, and turn on all of your notifications because you don't want to miss any of the amazing videos that this amazing YouTube creator is making for you. I mean, you really don't want to miss another dress, do you? So go and hit that subscribe button. Bye.
Well, you all heard Mari, so let's get started. Here I have some beautiful cotton fabrics, and I did buy these particularly for this project and for sewing these dresses, but I must say that one of the reasons why I designed this dress to be this way is to give us an opportunity to use up those beautiful fabric remnants, fabric scraps that we have, to put them in a fun and imaginative way and create beautiful and colorful dresses. Now, sometimes I can see people being quite skeptical about making anything beautiful from fabric scraps, but I'm here to tell you that those can be some of the most wonderful and creative projects out there. I've been making my own clothes from fabric scraps for quite some time, and it's amazing what you can create and what you can come up with. So give it a chance, definitely give yourself a chance, engage your creativity, grab that pile of fabric scraps, and if you want to see more adult projects made from fabric scraps, check out the links in the description. I have a full series, so hopefully you will change your mind and perhaps try your hand at it as well. Now the pattern file has 5 pages, the front page and 4 pages of the pattern itself. So grab those and let's put these together. First, I'm going to place my pages like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all numbered. Now let's go ahead and cut off the top margin of the page. And here you can also see that on the first page of the pattern, there is a 1 by 1 inch test square that you can use to make sure that everything has printed out to scale. Once done, I will take the bottom page and place it on top like so, aligning all of the lines, and then I will tape it or glue it, and I will do the same over here as well. Next, I'm going to connect these two by placing this one on the bottom, again aligning all of the pattern lines and then either gluing or taping. Now on the bottom here you will see this little piece. Let's cut it off because it needs to go on a side. Once again, I will cut off the margin and then place it on top. Now I can cut out the entire pattern. This pattern, as most things that I draft, doesn't have any seam allowances added to it just yet. So we're going to do that as we cut our fabric. And first we need to separate the bodice from the rest of the dress. Now I know that I just taped it together, but I did it in order to show the entire dress for you. So in your case, you don't have to do that. All of my fabrics are already washed, and I think I want my bodice to be this one. So let's place the fabric on the fold, and the grain line of the pattern piece is right here at the center front and a center back. I'm going to add seam allowances only in 2 spots, right here on the bottom, 3/8 of an inch, and right here on the shoulder seam, 3/8 of an inch as well. If you find it easier, as always, you can copy this pattern onto a new piece of paper and mark seam allowances right away, so that way you don't have to do that when you cut your fabric. Now for the back pattern piece, we need to remove the paper pattern and then cut through this fold line. To cut the front pattern piece, we're going to do everything the same, except that we're going to cut away the back neckline and we're not going to cut through the fold. So here I have the front pattern piece and the back pattern pieces. Now let's go ahead and put these together right away. I think it's going to be a little bit easier that way. For that, there are multiple ways how you can put this together. One of them is by using bias tape. I just cut whatever bias tape I have from the fabric scraps and use that. But if you need precise measurements, then on the front page of the pattern, you will be able to find those. Take your front pattern piece and open it up. Take both of the back pattern pieces and place them right sides together, aligning them at the shoulder seams. Now let's sew these up with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to grab my bodice and without pinning, bring it over to the sewing machine. We're going to start on the edge of the sleeve, select a straight stitch and sew. Of course, don't forget back stitching at the beginning and at the end. Once both shoulder seams are done, we have to finish the raw edges of the fabric. You can do that on a serger, you can do that with a tightly spaced zigzag stitch. Now, I'll finish this one with an overcast stitch on my sewing machine, but if you do need more information and more ways how to finish raw edges of the fabric, then I will leave a very detailed video for you guys in a description. At this point, it would be nice to give it a press. So open your pattern pieces like so, with seam allowance of the shoulder facing towards the back, and give it a good press. Now flip it, grab a piece of bias tape, and we're going to finish the sleeves first. Place your bias tape with the right side down on the wrong side of the garment, align it with the edge of the sleeve, and we're going to stitch it with a straight stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once done, flip it to the right side like this, take the bias tape, fold it over the seam allowance and cover the original stitch line. If you're just not sure about holding this all together in your hands without any pins, of course you can pin it or give it a really good press. That helps, especially with cotton and linen fabrics that press really well. Now we're going to stitch on the right side of the fabric, on the right side of the bias tape, on the very edge right here with a straight stitch. Here it is, and now we're going to repeat all the same steps on the other side as well. After completing both of the sleeves, we're going to do exactly the same steps for the neckline. So place your project wrong side up, take your bias tape, place it right side down on the wrong side, align it with the edge, and let's head to the sewing machine and stitch it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. While we're getting this done, there are two things that I would like to mention. The first one is, and I'm sure that you have noticed by now, that we're not really using any pins in this project. However, we will be using just a couple in a few moments, but mostly everything is just held together with your fingers. And the technique is called finger pinning, and that's basically what it sounds like. You're pinning with your fingers. And I did learn about it from one of the books by Nancy Zeman. Now, when you're working with larger pattern pieces, it does help if you have some sort of markings or notches to make sure that everything aligns, but when we're working with small pattern pieces, it works great without it just as well. Now, I do find that a technique like this definitely makes it more efficient, cuts down on the time that you need to pin and then remove the pins, especially when you're working on large projects. The other thing is that we didn't stay stitch the neckline, and I do usually skip the steps in projects like these where I know that number one, I'm going to be handling the bodice very little, and the probability of me making a mistake and needing to rip out the seam is very low, because the only two things that we do before completing the neckline is finishing the seam of the sleeve, the shoulder seam, and of course finishing the sleeve itself. So there's very little handling of the actual bodice and very little chance to stretch it out. Plus, we're working with really nice medium weight cotton that isn't as gentle as, for example, rayon or silk. So in projects like these, I do skip this step. But if you do feel like you would like to, of course, stay stitch before completing the bias tape. Areas like these we can simply tidy off by snipping off the extra. Now the steps are going to be exactly the same as we did for the sleeve. I'm going to start right here on one of the back sides, and we're going to fold the bias tape over the original stitching line. You can of course do that right at the sewing machine, or if you would like, you can go ahead and give it a good press first to keep everything in place. Now before stitching the bias tape down, we're going to do one extra step. Open the bias tape right here on the back, place it like so, and we're going to stitch through both bias tapes right into that crease all the way up, right where the curve of the back neckline begins. It sounds a little complex, but it's actually really easy, and that's what's going to give us that beautiful back neckline. Once stitching is done, go ahead and place it flat, and now we can stitch down the bias tape. Once done, this is what you're going to have on the back. this is what you're going to have in the front. And let's go ahead and give this a little bit of a back stitch here to make sure that this connection point is nice and secure. While we're at it, also take the sleeve, place it like so, butting the sides against each other, and then do a little back stitch close to the edge. This completes the entire bodice. Now let's move on to the bottom part. We're going to start by cutting along this line. I have placed my fabric on the fold, and the grain line of this pattern piece is right here where it says fold. Number 2 is the top, number 4 is the bottom. So let's place it like so. The seam allowances on the top are going to be 3/8 of an inch, on the side 3/8 of an inch, on the hem let's do 1/2 an inch. After cutting this first pattern piece, use it as a template to cut the other one because we'll need one for the front and one for the back. Not to forget which one is the top, I like to give it a little notch right over here at the center front. We have cut the middle part, now let's move on to the side panel. I'm going to place my fabric on the fold, take my pattern piece. This part that says fold is gonna match with the fold of the fabric, like so. And let's cut it out. On top we have 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, on the side 3/8 of an inch, and on the bottom 1/2 an inch for the hem. On the top of the fold of this pattern piece, give it a little notch so that way we know where to place the sleeves when we're ready to sew the bodice onto the bottom. To cut the second pattern piece, use the first one as a template, and I personally like to nest them like so to maximize the use of the fabric. The side panel is done, now onto the pocket, and for that we need to cut off this part and this part. Grab your fabric, place it on the fold, grab your pattern piece, the marking of the fold is gonna go on the fold of the fabric, and the seam allowances are going to be just on the side, 3/8 of an inch, so no seam allowance on the top, no seam allowance on the bottom. Of course, you will also need to cut 2 of these. Now when it comes to putting the pockets together, there are also different ways how to do that. Right now I'm gonna go with the one that requires bias tape, but if you want to see the other options, then definitely make sure to check out last year's video. The pockets there are exactly the same, and I give you multiple options. The top of the pocket here is going to be completed exactly the same way as we did the sleeves and the neckline. So grab your pocket pattern piece, flip it, take your bias tape, place the right side onto the wrong side, and stitch with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. After that, turn it over and top stitch. Once both tops of the pockets are done, we will need to grab a side panel. So let's grab this first one, right side up, grab a pocket, and place it like so. Grab the other one, and repeat all of the same steps. That's where we will need a couple of pins. One pin over here, and the other one over here, so that way it holds the pocket in place. Here, place the bias tape right sides together with the pocket, align at the edge, and let's stitch with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Next, I'm going to fold the bias tape down and top stitch. The last and final step for the pocket is to take our bias tape, fold it down in half, like so, and then fold it down one more time. And we're going to top stitch this time on the opposite edge. After that, that's it, the pocket is done. Next, I'm going to take both of the middle parts. As you remember, we have made a little notch to remember which one is the top. So this is the top, this is the top, and this is the top. Now I'm going to place the middle and the side part right sides together, aligning, and we're going to sew it this way with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other side as well. That way the side panel is going to be sandwiched in the middle. This time, to finish the raw edges on the inside of the garment, I did use a serger. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. I just wanted to show you that you can use both sewing machine and a serger depending on what you have, and both options work really well. To finish the bottom part, grab the other side panel, place it right sides together, and attach it exactly the same way as we did previously. And after that, of course, complete the circle by attaching the last center panel to the side. Before moving on to the next step, I like to give my panels a really good press with seam allowances facing towards the middle. Now it is time to connect top to the bottom. So first we're going to take the bottom part and flip it wrong side out. Then we're going to take the top part and place it inside, right sides facing. It doesn't really matter which side because they're both identical. Now find the connection point of your little sleeve and place it right into that notch of the side panel that we made a little bit earlier. Here you can use a little pin to hold it in place, and we're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Now we will head to the sewing machine and sew it in the round with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I like to start this part from one of the side panels and work from there. Once you have done your straight stitch, of course we will need to finish the raw edges of the fabric. And after that, the last and final step is to finish the hem. There is one extra thing that you can do to make bodice look extra polished. You can take the seam allowance that connects the top and the bottom, you can push it towards the bottom, give it a good press, and then top stitch it. Here we're going to do a very simple double fold hem. Each fold is going to be about 1/4 of an inch. So you will fold it once, then you will fold it twice, and stitch it down. As a few final steps, of course, don't forget to tidy up and tuck in any of the loose threads. Give this one more really good press. If you'd like, you can add a bow or decorative buttons. Don't forget to sew on the Project Dresser Girl label, and ta-da! And there you have it, you made a beautiful dress. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your sewing talents and your precious time, your precious resources with those who are in need. And until next time, happy, thoughtful sewing. I'll see you soon. Bye!